The new Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
My name is Gene Haig. I'm from Haddonfield, New Jersey. You've certainly taken a monumental task, Mr. Dreyfuss, and we thank you for that. We're right behind you. My question for you, what precisely is your definition of civics?
Good question. Civics is the comprehension of this particular Republican democracy and its place within other governance theories and its place in the history of mankind, and the excellence that we must attain to maintain this particular representative democracy. It is the tools of excellence that go into maintaining and comprehending our system, a task which had never needed to be done before because kings were the only ones that counted and fascists didn't ask. That's civics.
This is a multi-layered approach. It's not just putting civics in the schools. What are some of the broad areas? Then we'll let Richard make the announcements.
Well, the key is that when you think about what makes a viable culture, a civic culture here in America or any country, it's an interweaving of many different threads. It is the K through 12 pipeline, how you prepare young people to take their place as engaged, effective citizens. The second is how do you engage the popular culture? How do you have people learn about our country in many different ways, especially through the arts? And how do you give people a sense of grounding, a sense of place in terms of preservation of history, but a sense of place in terms of where we fit in history and how one thing leads to another, leads to another. And those are the three initiatives we're going to be announcing tonight, which I'll let Richard do. But basically we're looking at, for the last really 6-7 years, Richard has been the Paul Revere. Not the Sarah Palin Paul Revere, but the Paul Revere that is out there actually raising the clarion call that there's something grievously wrong with this country. And that is that we've forgotten the rules of the game, we've lost a common frame of reference, and we've lost a basic civility in the way we talk to other people who we might disagree with. And this is something that has unraveled over many decades. There are many sins of omission, many sins of commission, and enough blame to be spread across the entire political spectrum. So now we're trying to say, how do we bring us back from the brink? And so reweaving that civic culture is going to be many years in the making, and many activities in the making, and many partnerships in the making. And so tonight we're going to be announcing 3 steps in that direction. And with that, I'll turn to Richard.
Among the 50 civic missions that I visited before I left for England, none of them had an alternate civic program of any detail. Oftentimes you'd hear or read someone say, we must support teachers when they bring controversial subjects into the classroom. None of them answered the question, what will we do when that teacher is fired for doing that? And when I went to Oxford, I tried to have a basis of common sense, because there was, not just in politics, but in all of the worlds that I lived in, there was common senselessness. For instance, in any paper that you might read, at least once a week, sometimes every day, there's a list of the 10 most popular films. And always that list is based on a gross dollar figure, which makes that list meaningless because it doesn't factor in inflation. And it cost $0.25 to see Gone with the Wind. And no journalist ever asked for the list that would make sense, which was how many tickets were sold. No one asked, so no one's ever done it. If someone gave that list, you'd see a very different list and a very different order of things, and you'd learn that Gone with the Wind was and will probably always remain the most popular film ever made. And that senselessness includes how many Britney Spears covers are on Vanity Fair or Esquire or People, and why. Or, when I came back from London once, the fact that everyone in America was talking about how Scott Peterson had killed his wife and unborn child based on circumstantial evidence and sent him to, and gave him the death penalty. That was the only thing that everyone was talking about while we were having 2 wars without Senate or House oversight committees and no declaration of war. And then there was a mortgage controversy, and we were being cheated out of mortgages and no one was held accountable. And then our banks began to foreclose on our homes illegally, and no one held them accountable. 8,000 people quit the Bank of America and said, I'm not going to do this anymore, sign these illegal statements and take your home. But no one ever laid a claim of breaking the law against the banks. And then we had a bailout, which Warren Buffett said was worse than 1929. We had a financial crisis that was worse than 1929, and we gave the ones who caused it billions of dollars and said thank you. And no one said anything. And it was as if people were calibrating just how stupid we were becoming, and they would then take another step. And I happen to love America. I happen to love America in a way that I can hardly convey to you, because we are exactly what I said, a political miracle. And every family in this room, except for the people that we dragged here against their will, or who we found here and killed, every family in America shares what I call a cultural mythology. Somewhere in your family is someone who left or fled a caste or class system designed by wealth that paralyzed them and made them immobile and made them absolutely impossible to rise above the establishment wall. And then they heard about America and came here. And a year and a half ago, the Supreme Court of the United States said that corporations, who were already human beings in legal code, but who happen just by circumstance not to breathe, live, give birth, suffer, or die, but they were humans, so they couldn't be sued for something. Corporations were completely unlimited. No prohibitions of any kind to any corporation in giving money to political campaigns. And they made no distinction whether those corporations were American or foreign. And if they were foreign, you couldn't trace them and you couldn't audit them, which meant that we were putting ourselves on eBay every 4 years. And we think that $4 billion campaigns are a controversy, and there'll be $50 billion campaigns within 3 years. And we will never know who is buying us. And human beings, for whom theories of governance are designed for, were strictly limited in how much they could give to about $1,200 or $1,400 a year to any particular campaign, which meant that our involvement in our own political system had been reduced to a a ritual dance. And we were being openly traded back and forth between Mercedes, OPEC, Nissan, and other corporations. Now, this is not only senseless, this is self-destructive and suicidal. And yet, I can see on the faces of the people in this room a lack of dread. I wrote an op-ed once that said, I don't know why I can't make you feel the dread I feel when I think of the future of the country in 50 years. My grandchildren will not have anything like the blessings of liberty that this country birthed and gave to the world. Not even a little bit.
The new Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.